Hey everyone, I'd like to apologize for not putting out a video in over 5 months. I've actually had this footage since January, so it's been 8+ months since I've recorded this, and I just been procrastinating and things got busy over the summer, so it is what it is. Bonus with that is now I can give you an 8-month review of the Revo shaft. So stay tuned to the end of the video. I'll give you that update and tell you what I think. Disclaimer with this video, this is not a heavy analytical video of the Revo shaft. If you want something like that, I'll put a link in the description below to a Dr. Dave video where he compares this shaft with a bunch of other low deflection shafts. Lastly, please subscribe to the channel. I have placed a watermark on the video in the bottom corner. Just click on that and boom, you're subscribed. So I'll see you at the end of the video. Well, I did it. I did something a year ago I said I would not do, and that was to buy a shaft that would cost as much as a good playing cube. And I'm here today with this package, and I'm gonna open it right now. Okay, let's talk a little bit about this Revo shaft. Predator has spent 10 years developing this shaft. It comes in two different sizes, a 12.4 like this one and a 12.9. Now Predator claims this has more accuracy, consistency, comfort, and longevity than your traditional LD shafts. It has lower deflection at both higher and lower cue ball speeds with an ultra efficient energy transfer which helps with cue ball control. Now the design, as you can tell, doesn't have a ferrule. Instead they have a vault plate and a tip silencer. There's also R2 foam throughout the shaft in specific locations, and this is to help increase and decrease the stiffness of the shaft.
and this allows for better feedback for the player. The carbon fiber is a unidirectional carbon fiber throw, and this allows Predator to tune the shaft for billiards play. The taper on the shaft is a pro style type taper and has an 8% taper from the tip to the base on the 12.4, whereas the 12.9 has a 5% taper. The tip they decided to go with is the Predator Victory Soft tip. It's an 8-layer high contrast yellow tip. Now the high contrast yellow will help you with sighting your shot since you don't have a ferrule to help you out. All this said, Predator claims this is the stiffest shaft they've ever produced. Now some specific advantages to carbon fiber shafts in general is they won't warp, they're resistant to dings and wear and tear, and they have an ultra smooth finish. So as you saw earlier, I shot some balls with the Revo shaft to get some first impressions. First and foremost, this thing is slick. I mean, crazy slick. I actually felt compelled to put my glove on, not to decrease the friction between my hand and the shaft, but to actually increase it. Also, this thing is a fingerprint magnet. Everywhere you touch it, you're gonna leave a fingerprint. The tip itself, even though it's a 12.4 millimeter tip, which I verified, it looks different, or it looks smaller than a 12.4. The joint, when I was screwing it down onto my cue, it's a little loose as you're screwing it down. However, once it bottoms out, it's nice and tight. It's not a big deal. However, it did come loose on me once when I was shooting. The weight of this shaft is a little heavier than what I'm used to, so it kind of threw the balance of my cue off a little bit, but that's something I can easily get used to. So, how does it hit? It hits phenomenal. It's one of the best hitting shafts I've ever played with. Now, I plan on using this for the next few weeks in league play and whatnot to kind of accumulate any more thoughts and impressions I have of this shaft. And then I plan on coming back to you guys and giving you my final thoughts on this Revo shaft. So it's been a few weeks now since I got the Revo shaft, and I've been playing with it in league, played in a few tournaments, and been practicing around the house quite a bit. Everything I said in my first impression still holds true. It hits incredible, very consistent, and it's definitely a low deflection shaft. However, most of my extended thoughts are more negative than they are positive. The first thing I'd like to note is when I was practice stroking with it, I would get a distinct audible noise from the contact point of my bridge hand and the shaft. Now this probably comes from the finish on the shaft, but it happened both with and without my glove, and that audible noise, it can be pretty annoying. It was for me. It's something that I could probably still get over, but it's definitely worth noting that I noticed that. Another thing too is the Victory tip. I initially really liked the tip, but with an extended period with it, I found myself having to scuff and shape it quite often. It would flatten out pretty fast, and that would also affect the way I hit the ball when it started flattening out. As far as holding chalk, it holds chalk really well, so that's not really an issue, but I just didn't like how I have to be constantly maintaining this tip. I think what I'm going to do in the near future is put a Kamui Soft brown tip on there. I think that would be a good match for this shaft, and give that a go. Now, I've never played with the Kamui Brown. I've only played with blacks, so we'll see how that goes. Now, I know Predator does say that the Victory tip is the tip that should be on the Revo shaft, but I just don't like it, so I'm going to give the Kamui Brown a try and see how it goes. Lastly, when I was doing a research on the shaft, I found that a lot of people were talking about issues with not having the white ferrule on the shaft, and I think there's some credence to that. I found myself having a little bit of difficulty judging the distance between my tip and the cue ball when I was practice stroking, and I actually accidentally hit the cue ball a couple times. What I found looking down the entire shaft being black without that white to break up your sighting, it's kind of hard to judge that distance sometimes between your tip and the cue ball. So I think there's some truth to that. So that's something to be aware of. All right, let's take a minute to talk about the cost of this shaft. This shaft is not cheap. Matter of fact, it costs about as much as a decent playing cue would cost. That being said, the reason why I purchased it is I really wanted to do a review of it on the channel, as well as try it out for myself for a while. And I really do like it. However, I would not recommend this shaft to beginners. This is more of an intermediate player that had some extra cash and was wanting to try something new that might up their game a little bit. Also, this shaft is very hard to come by right now. A lot of places are sold out, so you end up finding a lot of people selling this for anywhere from $50 to $200 over suggested retail. There's other companies out there that are putting out their version of the Revo shaft, or a carbon fiber shaft. Q-Tech's one of them. They just put out their Cynergy 15K. That's the one that Shane Van Boning plays with. I believe McDermott's coming out with their version. I've heard Jacoby is developing one as well. And there's a new company out there on the scene that's called BQ. They pride themselves in their technology and their billiards equipment. They put one out a few months ago as well. I don't know much about them other than what I've read online. I really would like to try one of their shafts out sometime. But right now, this is the only carbon fiber shaft I've ever tested. Also, there's something to be said about the professionals moving towards carbon fiber shafts. They see the advantages of it, and they're moving towards them for a reason. So there's something to be said about that. Talking about the pros and cons one last time. The pros, the wear and tear, it's resistant to wear and tear and dings. It doesn't warp. It has an ultra smooth finish, so it's really good in the hands. You don't even really need a glove. As far as cons, you had that audible noise that I had when I was practice stroking. It doesn't have a ferrule. I don't really like the tip, but you can always change out the tip. All that being said, the pros, in my opinion, far outweigh the cons when it comes to this shaft. However, it comes at a cost. This shaft is a $500 shaft, so it's an investment in billiards equipment. Why would you go with a Revo shaft over, say, some of the competitors? Well, I believe Predator wouldn't have put their name to an inferior product. They pride themselves in the industry, and they've got a lot of research and development in this shaft. And many people believe that this is still the cutting edge of carbon fiber shafts in the industry right now. But that comes at the cost of $500. If you like this product and you really want to purchase it, I'll put some links in the description below. The links won't be affiliated. I'm not sponsored by anybody on doing these reviews. I just want to get reviews out there to the people so they make wise investments and they don't waste their money. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you really liked it. If you did, hit the like button below and subscribe to the channel so you can keep up to date with some of the new videos I'll be putting out here soon. I really appreciate it, and I see y'all in the next one. So as you could tell earlier, first, I'd like to thank y'all for taking the time to watch this video. It's been 8 months now with the Revo since I shot that video, and I have to say I have a love-hate relationship with this shaft. My biggest issue is the low deflection. Now, this is something I experienced when I shot a Z shaft a few years ago, and this low deflection on the Revo is very similar to the Z shaft, and that's with thin touch cut shots. The way I aim, it's an adjustment that I can't get used to, and I consistently hit them off in the same spot every time, and I just can't seem to get off that particular problem. Another thing too is that the shaft still tends to come loose from time to time on my cue, and it's never been a tight fitting fit on the joint, but you know, that's something that you got to be aware of when you're shooting with it. I did swap to the Kamui Brown Soft, and I don't like that tip. I do have it on another shaft, and I don't really care for it on that shaft either, so I think that's really the tip. I might try another tip somewhere down the road, we'll see. Not having a ferrule really is a problem for me as well, at least subliminally, but just having that ferrule and being used to being able to break up my sight picture, it really means a lot. Now, the fact that all these things come into play, here's where the love comes in. The way the hit feels is amazing. it's almost effortless to put English on the ball and get it to dance around the table the way you need it to, instead of really having to force your shots. So that, I really wish I can get used to this shaft. So there you have it. It's a love-hate relationship with this shaft. However, with all these issues, I have been trying a different carbon fiber shaft lately, and it's the Q-Tech Cynergy. Now, this shaft here has become my regular player for the last 3 or 4 months, and I really, really like it. And I definitely prefer it over the Revo, at least as of now. It hits great. It's my regular shaft that I play with in league, and it's not going to be as low as deflection as the Revo, but it's a good balance for me. I'm not giving up on the Revo yet. However, with the way I shoot with it, I can't put it in my regular rotation right now and expect to play well. So that's it. I hope you really like this. So subscribe and like this video. If you have any comments, leave them in the comments below, and I'll see y'all in the next one.